So it's Palm Sunday, and little Billy wakes up and not feeling really great, so the rest of the family goes to church. And all of a sudden they come home, and of course they're carrying the palm leaves. And little Billy goes, "Well, what's up with the palm leaves?" And his dad said, "Well, what happened is when everybody gathered together, and when Jesus was coming together and he walked by them, they lifted the palm trees as he showed up." And little Billy looks at him and he goes, "Let me get this right. I don't miss a day of church for 3 years, and he shows up?" Yeah, sometimes that can happen, Billy. Anyways, so Holy Week. This week, as I've been talking about, as I mentioned up front, is this idea of this suffering that was going on with Jesus. And we talked last week about this thing that happens, or this thought, or this idea that maybe the reason Jesus was able to go through this process is because he understood, number one, that it actually was a process, and that maybe, just maybe, is that because of the fact that he knew what was going on, maybe it was a little bit okay. And so we started talking about this idea last week that what Jesus went through was this type, if you will, of suffering. In other words, he experienced something that was going on that was happening to him. He experienced what we called last week was a sacred wound. And then what would happen is he would start to enter into this process that I'm calling sacred suffering. The thing I didn't mention last week is, as I started to contemplate it even more, we're going through this theme this year, the calling. And I thought to myself, could his suffering be a part of his calling? Could our suffering be a part of what we're doing? I had to kind of think about that one for a minute, right? So in other words, every single thing that he went through, could it be a part of a bigger story? Could there be some reason why he would choose to go through something so horrific, so incredibly difficult, right? And what I said last week is that he knew about this thing. He knew about this process. Because what he understood was this would be, in a sense, a catalyst for him to go beyond anything that he'd ever been through before. Right? And so we talked about this process. Last week I mentioned what? It started off with what? Desire. So in other words, there's something inside of you that says, I want to go further, I want more, I'm wanting to expand. And then what happens? The setup. What is the setup? The right people, the right places, the right thing, the right circumstances, the right event. The event can be a one-time event, or maybe it's over a period of time. But regardless of what it is, because of the fact that you're who and what you are, which is a brilliant piece of the divine, and you're powerful beyond your ever knowing, for most of us, then what happens is the universe goes, oh, I get it. They want to go through, they want to expand. Great. Tell you what, we'll set it up for you, no problem. And so that's what starts to happen. Behind the scenes, nobody knows about it, but the universe sure does, because the universe knows who and what you are, and it knows what you're asking for. So all the people, all the places, all the circumstances, all of a sudden start to line up, right? And then whatever happens, happens, and we wind up with this wound. And we talked last week about this wound could be something that happened when we're young, and this wound could be something that impacts you your entire life, or it could be a one-time event. You could lose a loved one. You could watch somebody go through something very, very, very difficult. We just don't know. So we talked about that. And this wound has the potential to transform us. It's something that happens on a soul level. Right? It's not necessarily something we're excited about going through. You remember Jesus? Take this cup from me. No, 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 no. I don't want this. I don't want this. And we talk about this wound. For some people, God love you, the wounding is light. And we talked about that some people, it's a little bit more intense. In other words, it's something that lasts your entire lifetime. And we see this all the time with people we watch struggle their entire lifetime. Right? But what happens as a result of this wound, then we step into the next phase. And we talk about sacred suffering. So this is a picture of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And this is where the beginning of his suffering started. So just kind of plug everybody into the story. Quick little rerun. What happens? Okay. I want you to understand, while today is Palm Sunday, and yes, Jesus was received in Jerusalem, and it was a big party. I mean, everybody was having a good time. He's walking, they're waving the palms. Beautiful, wonderful, fantastic. But it was shortly after that he goes into the Last Supper. So then he goes into the Last Supper. Great. So we get together with all his buds, and he says, hey, I got good news, bad news. Good news is, hey, man, in a week, we are going to have a party. Between now and then, not so much. Right? So he knew. But it's where his suffering began, in the Garden of Gethsemane, because he knew what was coming, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa! The emotions, the mental part. As the saying goes, he threw himself down on the ground. And he began his process of suffering. Right? And then it began. The betrayal by Judas, the 3 denials by Peter, the trial, the events leading up to the crucifixion. If anybody's seen the Passion of the Christ, my God. What that looked like, and then ultimately the crucifixion. And so this was Jesus' suffering. Right? So, of course, we're in unity, so what does that mean? Unity means what? Yeah, we'll read the stuff in the Bible, but there's also going to be a metaphysical interpretation of what it means. So we can look at the Garden of Gethsemane and just go, well, that's an interesting story. Or, for me anyways, I like to go a little bit deeper. I want to see what it's talking about. So let's talk about metaphysically what it meant when Jesus went into the Garden of Gethsemane. The struggle is that takes place within consciousness when truth is realized as the one reality. This is often agony. It hurts. The suffering that the soul undergoes is giving up its cherished idols and letting go of the human or the ego consciousness. Oh, wow. So in other words, he's having to let go of what his ego is trying to tell him. I don't want to do this. I can't handle this. This is too much for me. I'm overwhelmed. Why is this happening to me? It's wrong. This should never be happening. And so there's a struggle. It goes on to say the suffering is the thing that causes us to rise, to become more than we would normally want to or choose. So consciously, we're not going to choose what we're about to go through. But our soul, different story, right? And it's a thing that propels us where we are wanting to go on a soul level, but maybe not on an ego level. Where we are wanting to go on a soul level. Think about that for a minute in your own life. Think about the stuff that you've gone through, the pain that you've gone through, the suffering that you've been through. And I know, especially if you're going through it right now, when you're in the middle of it, you can't necessarily see it. In fact, I would argue it's not possible to see it when you're in the middle of it. But just understand that this is where your soul is wanting to go for whatever reason. And I don't know why we choose to do what we do, but I do know that often there is a bigger reason for it. Because on a soul level, this is what we're craving. This is what we're wanting. Right? Does that make it easy? No. Does it make it fun? Hell no. Does it mean that it's comfortable? I don't know. Does Jesus look comfortable? Just saying. Of course not, right? In this process, there can be anger, there can be tears, there can be frustration, there can be confusion, there can be sadness, right? We can feel lost. Like, what am I supposed to do here? I don't know what this is for. Why? All the above. And then there's the pain. There's the physical pain. There can be emotional pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, all this pain. And in Jesus' case, all of it at one time. He took it all on. In addition to all of that, when you go through this, you can feel like you're all alone. How many know exactly what I'm talking about? Yeah. You feel like you're alone. Even when you've got really good people around you, it can still feel like you are all alone. Right? Look at Jesus. He knew what was going to happen. He knew it. He even went to dinner and said, hey, I need a few of you folks to come with me. Would you please come with me when I go process? So sure enough, Peter and a handful of the other boys, okay, let's go. Jesus says, hey, I'm going to take a few minutes. I got to go talk to the big fella upstairs. I'll be right back. I'll be with just a minute, okay? And so Jesus is hanging out, and all of a sudden he goes and he has this little chit-chat, and he comes back, and guess what all the disciples were doing when he came back? Are you kidding me? Like, seriously? And I just think metaphorically there's something there. There's something just about the need to do it alone. Even though you've got all these people around you that are supporting you, you're still alone in that process, right? And it's hard. And it's not only hard on you that is going through it, but I would argue it can even be harder on those of us who are there watching the person go through it. It can be just as hard for the people that are watching us go through it, right? There's no way for them not to be impacted on your suffering. Not if you care about them, not if you love them. There's no way for you not to be impacted. You can feel helpless. You can feel like there's absolutely nothing that you can do but watch this person go through the suffering. So, what can we do? So, I mean, I get it, right? There's the obvious things. You can pray, you can spend time with the person, you can support them, and try to hold them, right? And as I was contemplating this, I want to share with you something that I thought was fascinating. So I was on this call a few weeks ago, and there was a group. I don't know, there's 15 or 20 people on the group, and this person started to share the story about how he had just recently gone through something. And he felt like he was attacked. He felt like what happened wasn't right. He felt he was just going through, he was in a suffering, right? So he's sitting there and he's sharing with all of us, and you could feel it. I mean, just hearing him talk. And all of a sudden, he was done, and somebody chimes up and they say to this person, I see you. I am really, really sorry that you're going through this. But I just want you to know that I can see you in what it is that you're going through. And as you watch this person, you saw somebody emotionally who was just on the verge of tears and crying. And you could just see it was like a big, oh. You know, all of a sudden it made me realize, like, he was just seen. Like, really seen by somebody. So let me get this right. By somebody that's going through the suffering, to be seen in the middle of their suffering can actually really do a lot to help them. A lot to help them, right? It makes me think of the word namaste. Namaste is a Sanskrit phrase that is formed from nama, meaning to bow, right? And then T-E, which means to you. So namaste, I bow to you. How many people know namaste, right? But in Western culture, what we've done is we've taken that to mean what? I bow or I honor your divinity. The divinity in me bows and honors the divinity in you. And I think to myself, wow, that's really, really beautiful that we honor everybody's divinity. But as I saw what happened to this person after this call, I was sitting there going, does that really do everything that we could do to support this person? And I thought, but aren't we really missing a piece or a part, if you will, of that person's experience in that moment? I mean, isn't wounding and suffering part of who and what we are? Isn't the result of my suffering the thing that has brought me to where I'm at right here and right now? And it's the same for everybody that's sitting in front of me right at this moment, all of us. Isn't our suffering a part of what has gotten us to right here? And the answer is yes. Without a doubt it is, right? And as I thought about that, I'm like, we honor the divinity, but do we honor each other's suffering and wounding? Do we do that? And the answer is no. We don't do that. So in other words, let me get this right. We are not honoring a part of who and what you are. You are your divinity. You are your wounding. You are your suffering. You are all of it. And I thought, wow, what if we could start doing that? What if we could really start honoring everybody's wounding and suffering? In other words, I want to really honor your wounding and your suffering because I think it's important that we do that, right? And then I thought, well, in a sense, what we're really saying is that we're really honoring your entire life, all of it. So I want to figure out a way, well, how do I say that to somebody? How do I say to you, like, I not only honor your divinity, but I also honor everything that you've been through in all of your suffering, whether it's something that's happened in the past or if it's something that you're going through right now. How do I do that? And then I thought, I'm going to create a word. Namaste. Namaste means I honor and acknowledge your way, which includes honoring your sacred wounding and your sacred suffering that you have gone through now and in the past. And that's what I want to do. And I think to myself, for me personally, for Mike, maybe not you, and it's okay, but I thought what a beautiful thing that we can start honoring each other's pain and suffering. Could you imagine if we could do this not only individually, but collectively and mean it? A heartfelt namaste? What differences it would make in what's going on, especially in today's environment, if we could just really honor that? So this idea, this thought, as we spend time in processing this week, and I don't know, there's something that, well, there's stuff that's going on for me personally, but I'm just saying that this idea of tapping into, just for a moment, it's not like we're going to spend the whole year in suffering. It's not like I want you hanging out all week long. Oh, Mike said I got to be. No. But I just think there's something really, really beautiful that is a part of all of our lives that touches us at different times and can have such an impact just to honor it. Because it is a part of who and what you are. It is a part of your path. It is a part of what has made you, you. So I really, really hope, my hope is that, let me go back, there we go. As you go through this week, just in your own way, spending a little bit of time, even looking at your own life, and maybe starting off there, and just honoring your own wounding and your own suffering. And then just maybe from a compassionate standpoint, the idea of maybe being able to share it with some things that are going on in the world today, and see where you might be able to offer that as well. So, having said that, we've gotten this process. We've got desire, then we've got the setup, then we've got sacred wounding, and then we have sacred suffering. And the good news is, next week, we're going to bring a little bit more light back into the situation, right? Because there is good news. And I shared with you last week some of my story, and some of you know some of my stories and some of my sufferings, but what I'm able to do now is I'm able to look back at those sufferings and have a really good understanding of why, even though they were incredibly painful, why I've gone through some of the stuff that I've gone through, because I wanted to grow. And as a result of it, I did. And as a result of it, I can look back now at some of the most painful stuff that I've been through. And look, I'm not talking about losing a loved one or something like that. We will always get a tear when we think about the people that we've lost and that we love. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is the stuff on a soul level that I can look back at now and go, no, that was really good that I went through that. I could have never have said that while I was going through it. Never. In fact, if you would have tried to tell me that while I was going through it, I don't know what I would have said. It wouldn't have been very nice, I can tell you that. So anyways, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing you, every one of you, with us. Your life is sacred. And we are blessed to have you here. And we are grateful that you're here. And again, for those of you that are having a good time, keep having a good time, because the people that aren't need you. There's so much more. Oh my God, as I was preparing for this talk, I was like, my God, I could sit up there and talk for 3 hours about this stuff. But I think that's enough for right now. I'm really grateful for you. I'm really grateful for the space. You, each and every one of you, even if you don't think this, you make this happen. It's not about Mike. It's not about whatever. It's about us coming together as a community. And we'll continue to do this, to build it, so that we can create a space where people can be held, and they can heal, and they can learn, and they can grow as they step into their own power. And we go from being a victim and we turn into powerful creators. And then guess what? Then we get to do all kinds of cool stuff. And what does that look like? I don't know. But why don't you come together and why don't we talk about it and see what we want to create together? Having said that, God bless, namaste, and namaste. Thank you.
Hey, it's Reverend Mike here. I just wanted to stop for a moment before you get on with your day, and thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. It means the world to us, and I just wanted to let you know if there's anything that we can do to make your experience even better, please do not hesitate to reach out by going to our website. I also wanted to offer you the opportunity for us to get together and sit down so I could get to know you a little bit better and answer any questions that you have. I can either do that by either getting together in person, have a cup of coffee, or we can meet online via Zoom. If you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at michael@courage2thrive.com. And lastly, if you find these messages are helping you, we would be tremendously grateful if you'd consider donating to the center. The best and the easiest way to do that is simple. Just go to our website. Again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Hope you're doing well. God bless, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.